Hidden beneath California's rolling hills and sunlit cities is a world long buried. A world few imagine and even fewer discover. If you were to go back 20,000 years to the heart of the Ice Age, California becomes almost unrecognizable. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower and the coastline stretched far beyond where it is today. Before highways and high-rises, this was a land of giants. Mammoths thundered across inland valleys. Saber-toothed cats hunted in the brush. Vast lakes shimmered across desert basins. And through it all, early humans endured, resilient, clever, and learning to survive in a raw, untamed world. From the coasts to the mountains, and from the deserts to the sea cliffs, clues from that lost world are still with us, trapped in tar pits, buried in riverbeds, and even hiding beneath modern neighborhoods. Welcome to Voyager, I'm Armando, and today we're uncovering the Ice Age secrets hidden beneath California. We'll step into a colder, wilder version of this land, one filled with creatures you'd never expect and stories you've never heard. From places you've passed 100 times to landscapes hiding mysteries in plain sight. This journey will change the way you see California forever. Let's get started. To understand what California looked like in the heart of the Ice Age, we need to rewind the clock about 20,000 years. Standing in California back then, you might not recognize it. Not because the mountains weren't there or the coastline didn't exist, but because everything about the land was wilder. The air was cooler, the skies carried more rain, and the hills bloomed with woodlands and ancient grasslands. This was the tail end of the last Ice Age, a time scientists called the last glacial maximum. Small glaciers even clung to the San Gabriel Mountains overlooking Los Angeles. Streams trickled down, feeding wetlands and rivers that flowed through the valleys. It was a different California, full of life, shaped by a gentler, wetter climate. Back then, sea levels were about 300 feet lower than today, exposing miles of extra coastline and giving rise to a now vanished landmass called Santa Rosa. This super island was a fusion of today's northern Channel Islands, San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, and Anacapa. They all stretched into one long island 75 miles across. It was close enough to the mainland that the Colombian mammoths swam across, only to evolve over time into pygmy mammoths no taller than a person. These miniature descendants survived until about 12,000 years ago, isolated and unique. Their bones, discovered in caves and creek beds on Santa Rosa Island, tell a story not just of adaptation, but of mystery. Prehistoric Californians came on boats. They were expert mariners, navigating open water, following the kelp highway, and thriving from the coast's abundant food sources. They traveled these isolated shores at least 8,500 years before the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Inland, another world thrived. What we now call the Coachella Valley wasn't a dry expanse. It held Lake Cahuilla, a massive body of fresh water fed by the Colorado River. Picture a lake the size of Rhode Island, 300 feet deep, buzzing with ice-aged birdlife. Its shores were teeming with wildlife. Ancient catfish and carp in the water, mammoths and camels grazing nearby, and humans tracking game along its banks. To this day, if you stand on a ridge outside La Quinta, you can still trace the ancient shoreline, etched like a ghost ring into the hills. Across the coastal plains and inland valleys, habitats layered over each other like a natural mosaic. Animals, long extinct, thrived in the garden that was prehistoric California. Mastodons browsed among cypress groves, herds of ancient horses thundered through the open flats, massive ground sloths stretched into trees for food, while American lions and saber-toothed cats stalked the edges of the brush. It was California's version of the Serengeti, and it played host to one of the most diverse arrays of life in the Pleistocene world. and the clues they left behind are still buried just beneath the surface. If you're enjoying the video or learned something new so far, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Now back to ice-aged California. If you could walk across California 20,000 years ago, you'd feel the ground rumbling as towering Columbian mammoths roamed the plains. Standing over 13 feet tall and weighing more than 10 tons, these cousins to the woolly mammoths were larger and equipped with enormous curved tusks used for foraging and combat. One of the most complete mammoth skeletons ever discovered in California, nicknamed Zed, was found right in the middle of Los Angeles during construction near the La Brea tar pits in 2006. Mammoths shared the land with a predator so iconic it became the fossil emblem of California, the saber-toothed cat. With bodies built for ambush and curved canines stretching up to 7 inches, these cats were apex hunters in a world of giants. They likely stalked horses, young mammoths, and bison in the woodlands and marshes that once blanketed the region. Their bones show battle scars, and others remarkable healing, proving that hunting megafauna came with serious risks. These cats vanished about 10,000 years ago, but their skeletal remains with those unmistakable fangs still capture the imagination. And then there were the wolves. Not like the ones we know today, but dire wolves. Heavier, more muscular, and built with bone-crushing jaws. They hunted in tight-knit packs. La Brea has revealed the remains of more than 4,000 individuals, making them the most common large predator found there. Scientists believe these wolves were often lured into sticky asphalt while chasing prey already trapped, creating a predator trap where entire packs were lost. Imagine the eerie howls of these animals echoing through a twilight ice-aged valley, just before silence took over them. But not all giants were predators. Ground sloths, massive, shaggy herbivores, lumbered through the canyons and hillsides, some weighing up to 3,000 pounds. One species, the Harlan ground sloth, used enormous claws to pull down branches and rear up on hind legs like a bear. Fossils show at least 3 species once lived here in what is now the greater Los Angeles area, surviving until about 11,000 years ago. And even camels roamed California too. Western camels grazed the plains in herds, resembling oversized llamas more than their modern desert cousins. They shared this ecosystem with long-horned bison and wild horses, the ancestors of the species we would later reintroduce. And even the seas were full of giants. Offshore, saber-toothed salmon measured up to 9 feet long patrolled the chilly Pacific Ocean. Pleistocene whales migrated past the coast, while the skies were patrolled by enormous birds like Miriam's teratorn, with wingspans stretching up to 12 feet. One of the most astonishing marine fossils happens to have been found in downtown San Diego, where workers unearthed the remains of a gray whale dating back nearly 500,000 years. All along the coastline, layers of fossil shells and bones continue to erode from the cliffs. So next time you pass a dusty trail or the bluffs along the ocean, take a moment to wonder, because if you could look just a bit deeper, you might find a sloth claw, a wolf skull, or a mammoth tusk. Buried reminders of a California that was colder, wilder, and full of life too big to imagine. Some of the most astonishing glimpses into California's Ice Age past haven't come from remote wilderness or distant dig sites. They've emerged from construction zones, oil fields, and quiet neighborhoods. The La Brea tar pits in the heart of Los Angeles are the most famous example. For generations, indigenous people knew about these bubbling seeps and used the tar to waterproof baskets and canoes. But in 1901, oil geologist William Warren Orcutt noticed something else: enormous bones embedded in the asphalt. He brought them to scientists, sparking one of the greatest fossil recoveries in history. and by 1913, formal excavations began. 96 pits were opened. Fossils were packed by the crate, sometimes even in fruit boxes from local markets, and sent to museums. By 1915, over 1 million bones had been recovered, from saber-toothed cats to dire wolves to mammoths and mastodons. And the work didn't stop there. In 2006, construction nearby uncovered 16 fossil-rich deposits. Rather than excavate them immediately, paleontologists boxed up the entire blocks of Earth, creating Project 23. More than a century after Orcutt's discovery, La Brea remains one of the world's most active and significant ice-aged fossil sites. Just 2 hours south in San Diego, a routine freeway project in 1992 turned into one of the most debated discoveries in North American archaeology. At what's now known as the Cerruti Mastodon site, paleontologist Tom Demir and his team uncovered the remains of a mastodon along with bones from camels, horses, and even tiny gophers, preserved in ancient river sediment. Among the mastodon bones were spiral fractures, and nearby, 2 heavy cobblestones appeared to show signs of deliberate use, as if they had been used as tools. When the site was finally dated in 2017, the shock wasn't just the condition of the bones, it was the age. 130,000 years old. That's more than 100,000 years before the accepted timeline for human arrival in North America. No human remains were found, and many scientists remain skeptical, arguing the damage could be natural. But if the evidence holds, it would mean someone, possibly Neanderthals, Denisovans, or another archaic species, were here long before the Clovis people ever set foot on this land. The Cerruti site remains one of the most controversial yet fascinating archaeological puzzles in the Western Hemisphere, and a bold reminder that California's past may stretch back even further than we think. Let's jump to around 13,000 years ago and explore what life was like for California's first explorers. In San Diego, in the waters off La Jolla shores, lies evidence of what may be one of the oldest submerged archaeological areas in North America. Some researchers suggest human presence here along this now submerged coastline could date back as far as 20,000 years. Before rising seas consumed the coastline, ancestors of the Kumeyaay people fished, paddled, and passed knowledge from one generation to the next, and they occupied land now hidden under the Pacific. Today, the La Jolla Underwater Park protects remnants of that world. Divers have uncovered artifacts embedded in the seabed, when the sea was both a food source and a passageway. Even the name La Jolla is believed by some to come from the Kumeyaay word meaning the cave place, a recognition of the sea caves that still define the shoreline today. This submerged village is a vivid reminder that California's Ice Age story isn't just told in deserts and canyons, but in the countless lost coastal settlements that are now beneath the ocean itself. The Arlington Springs Man, discovered in the 1950s on Santa Rosa Island, adds another layer to this mystery. Dated to nearly 13,000 years ago, his remains are among the oldest ever found in North America. And since the island was never connected to the mainland, it means that these early inhabitants, likely ancestors to the Chumash, used watercraft to navigate these open ocean channels. On the mainland, signs of California's earliest people continue to surface. None more striking than a discovery made in 2014 by a local geologist and fossil hunter, Joe Koch. While hiking along the sea cliffs of the Palos Verdes Peninsula, he spotted a large bone jutting from the earth. It turned out to be the pelvis of an extinct bison, dated back to about 13,500 years ago. But what made it extraordinary were the cut marks, clear signs that the animal had been butchered by humans. This became one of California's oldest known examples of human-megafauna interaction, offering a freeze-frame moment in time where prehistoric hunters and massive ice-aged animals crossed paths on a coastline that looked nothing like it does today. As the world warmed, everything began to shift. Between 12,000 and 10,000 years ago, glaciers retreated, sea levels surged, and the megafauna began to vanish. But human presence was expanding. In 1914, archaeologists at La Brea uncovered a partial skeleton of a young woman, the only human found there, which is now known as the La Brea woman, buried beside the remains of a domestic dog and dated to around 10,000 years ago. The Chumash, Tongva, and Kumeyaay carry oral traditions that reflect the land's transformation. The Chumash speak of a rainbow bridge that once linked the islands to the mainland, and how those who fell during the crossing became dolphins. And all across the continent, legends speak of hairy elephants and monstrous beasts, which echo perhaps ancestral memory from a time when humans and megafauna shared the same trails. As the Ice Age grew to a close between 13,000 and 10,000 years ago, everything began to change, and quickly. Toward the end of the last Ice Age, something strange began to happen across California. The megafauna, the mammoths, saber-tooths, direwolves, camels, and ground sloths began to vanish. Fossil records show this extinction almost in real time with a clear line in the sediment. Below it, mammoths, giant cats and direwolves, and above it, coyotes, birds, and smaller mammals. A 2023 study confirmed what many paleontologists long suspected. In Southern California, the extinction happened fast. Within just 300 years, some of the most iconic creatures ever to walk the earth were gone. The same pattern repeated across North America. Between 15,000 and 10,000 years ago, roughly 70% of the continent's large animals vanished. In California, the last Columbian mammoths and saber-toothed cats likely disappeared around 11,000 years ago. So what happened? The climate was unraveling, and as the Ice Age ended, glaciers melted, sea levels rose, and ecosystems shifted. Pollen records and fossilized plants show that once luscious valleys became scrubland. Lake Kumeyaay and others swelled and shrank, removing critical watering holes. And then came the Younger Dryas, a rapid return to cold, arid conditions between 12,900 and 11,700 years ago. For large herbivores, the environmental whiplash was too much. But climate alone doesn't explain the speed or scale of the die-off. Because just as the world was changing, something else was arriving. Humans, armed with spears, fire, and intelligence. For years, scientists debated whether the extinctions were caused by overhunting or climate collapse. Today, the answer appears to be both, a 1-2 punch. A clear sign that people were hunting these animals. A world shaped over millions of years unraveled in just a few hundred. And for the first time, it wasn't ice or asteroids behind the collapse. It was humans. In the aftermath, a new California emerged. With the giants gone, deer, pronghorn, and bighorn sheep took over the grazing roles. Coyotes, mountain lions, gray wolves, and black bears stepped into the vacant predator slots. But traces of the Ice Age still remain. The pronghorned antelope, still absurdly fast, having evolved to outrun predators that no longer exist. People adapted too. With the big game gone, they turned to seeds, acorns, shellfish, and smaller prey. Along the coast of San Diego, you'll find archaeological sites from the La Jolla complex, which date back roughly 8,000 years. And they show how people adapted to post-Ice Age life. They turned to the ocean, harvesting shellfish, fishing, and hunting smaller game. These early coastal communities, likely ancestors of today's Kumeyaay, left behind hearths, tools, and shell middens that trace an unbroken line from Pleistocene life to the present. And today, scientists and storytellers are still piecing it all together. In San Diego, that legacy has a permanent home at the Natural History Museum. Inside its Fossils Mysteries exhibit, you'll find a mastodon pulled from the Temecula clay, a direwolf unearthed from Otay Mesa, and even a capybara the size of a Labrador retrieved from the earth near Oceanside. Thanks to California's strict paleontology laws, construction projects like those in National City and Carlsbad are now watched closely by scientists, ensuring these bones aren't lost forever. And with tools like ancient DNA, CT scanning, and isotope analysis, researchers can now pull stunning details from the fossils, including what these animals ate, where they traveled, even the season they died. Meanwhile, the science keeps moving forward, pushing the boundaries of how early humans may have arrived here. As we face our own age of fires, floods, and vanishing species, these Ice Age stories feel less like ancient history and more like a message from the past. The bones remind us extinction isn't theoretical. It reframes the places we think we know. They remind us that this land has been adapting for thousands of years, and so have its people. These ancient lessons feel more relevant than ever. The Ice Age may be over, but its legacy is still unfolding, and its questions are all around us. Whether you're here to learn about fossils or the forgotten legends, or just a deeper look at the ground beneath your feet, California's Ice Age Pass offers a journey as vast as the landscapes that hold it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories from across Southern California and beyond. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today, and I hope it inspires you to explore the hidden layers of the world around you, whether it's in your own neighborhood or somewhere completely new. I wish you a safe journey. To continue exploring, click right here, and I'll see you in the next video.